My name is Chris McDonagh, and I've been working now with the Travel Mediation Service for 3 years, formerly known as MTCMI. Before that, I worked as a men's health worker with Leash Travel Action Group in Portlaoise. So when the opportunity came for me to work and be trained as a media in my own community, I couldn't turn it down. I jumped at the chance. And just to let you know, this year alone, 6 more travellers, men and women, have qualified as mediators, and 2 of them are sitting here to my left. So just to give it, so. Well, we'll start from the start. When it was discussed about doing peer mediation training in the prison, I wasn't too sure what was going to happen and what the hell it would look like, to be honest. But on my first visit to Castlereagh Prison School, I was impressed by the posters on the walls of the Red Cross room filled with thoughtful reflections on effects of violence and ways to manage anger and reduce violence within conflict. And these were the men on the prison who did these posters. It wasn't the teachers, it was the men themselves. So after some discussion with the Castlereagh staff and management, my colleague Aileen O'Brien and I agreed to develop a peer mediation programme on a pilot basis. As we had never run a peer mediation programme in a prison setting before, we adapted the school mediation programme. 2 teachers who had been delivering the Red Cross Awareness Programme supported and took part in the delivery of this course. And this was very much appreciated by Aileen and I see one of them over there, Peter. So on the first day, I really didn't know what to expect from the group and how they would take to me, especially traveller men. Especially being a traveller man from the community myself, I didn't know what to expect. So, and also, as it was being developed primarily in a prison with a high traveller population, Castlereagh, we ensured that there was a focus on traveller culture and conflict throughout the programme. On my first day, like I said, I didn't know what to expect. So when we sat down with the group, we explained to the group who had signed up for the programme that we were all embarking on uncharted territory together. From the beginning, the students engaged wholeheartedly and were very forthcoming in their ideas of what would look best within a prison setting. The group engaged with real commitment and honesty and showed their sincere desire to contribute to reducing conflict and improving relationships within the prison environment. In the first session, we discussed about conflict in prisons and how it was different from the outside and in the prison settings. Most of the group agreed that disputes would arise from the smallest of accidents, of misunderstandings, or it could just take a dirty look. But one of the most common was when the prisoners are using or queuing to phone or contact their families. So a big issue was a trigger point for a lot of prisoners. It was just a phone call. They had a few minutes, and if somebody was in front of them and was taking a little bit longer, that's when they kick off, when they didn't get their time. So it's something in the following weeks that we looked at. Also, according to the traveller men in the group, the impact of conflict can be hard as issues from the outside within their family communities, the travel community, can carry on into the prison. So something that was happening outside would easily come inside. Answer that phone. So like I said, in the following weeks, we looked at some of these problems and how we could address them. Some of the topics we covered that included the meaning of conflict and how it had been impacted on their lives, both in prison and outside. Listening and communication exercises. Personal response to conflict, individual styles and triggers. How conflict escalates and de-escalates techniques. Group work using questions to explore the nature of conflict and its impact and consequences. We went through the different styles of mediation process on a week-by-week basis, and they learned and practiced each of these stages week by week through role plays on scenarios, and developed a wide range of listening and communication and reflective skills. Throughout the programme, the men would give a feedback every week. We would ask the men to say what was working and what was not working. I'm just going to give 2 quotes from the men. I want to make jail a safer place. I want to be able to develop skills and bring it back into my community. And then at the end of it, some of the impacts that the men reported at the end of the programme, I will just give 2 of them as well. It has changed my view in that things can be talked out instead of conflict. I look at it in a different light now. We were able to prevent trouble starting on the inside and escalating to the outside. So when we come to near the end of the programme, we talk about referrals and the way what you can and can't do. And the prison makes the point that issues to do with criminality would not be appropriate referrals for mediation, nor would it be appropriate that breaches of prison discipline can be addressed through the programme. So towards the end of the programme, we looked at what referrals would be appropriate for the peer mediators to mediate and not to mediate. We also discussed the process once a decision was to mediate, who would mediate it and how many mediators, 1, 2, and sometimes the prison was telling you might take 3 mediators to do it. So, and at the very end with the men the last 6 who finished up to do the crits, an independent mediator accredited by the Mediators Association of Ireland then assessed the ability of the peer mediators. This was to determine the readiness of the men to start the delivery of their mediation process in the prison. The next step we during this, we did an evaluation report. And the purpose was to track the process to gather the learning in an evaluation report was funded by St Stephen's Green Trust to Travellers in Prison Initiative. The report included that, in terms of sustaining the programme, the turnover of prisoners, for whatever reasons of release or transfer, will mean that there is a need for an ongoing programme development. And according to prison staff, even where there is not a turnover of prisoners, maintaining the role of a mediator over a long period could be too much of a burden for one prisoner. At any time, having 4 mediators is likely to be enough, but succession tragedy needs to be acquired. So from the evaluation report, some of the recommendations I'm just going to read out. I won't go through them all. The structure required for the support and implementation of the programme to ensure that successful rollout would include a weekly meeting of the men as a group to review cases and debriefing with the chaplain, as well as with the teachers in the school, which will be Peter and Karen. Monthly or 6-week meetings of an anniversary group. Monitoring and documenting of a type and outcome of disputes. So second, regarding to future peer mediation training in Castlereagh Prison, there should continue to be a traveller culture element incorporated into them, led by traveller men and women. Once the pilot is up and going and reviewed, it should be launched to a wider within the prison. This will require a more extensive awareness arising and training process, including the following: consideration of developing a short film, a DVD, for a broadcast on the prison TV channel. Peer mediation introduction workshops for prison staff to encourage support and buy-in. Exploration of opinions where peer mediators would provide alternative information to new prisoners. The outcome and impacts of this programme on a wider prison community should be captured in time as more groups of peer mediators are trained. The next step, we're looking at sustaining the programme for the mediators. Sustaining the programme would be undertaken by repeating the training of the programme on an ongoing basis. The school staff would support this with an ongoing involvement with the Travelling Mediation Service. Prison staff suggested that peer mediation should be a follow-on to the Red Cross conflict awareness programme on an ongoing basis. This would sustain the programme in terms of men. The role of the advisory group, composed of representatives from the prison management, TMS, EBT staff, TPI and CARE and others, will be critical in sustaining the momentum of the programme and ensuring that peer mediation is supported to become a fully recognised mediation service in the prison. Also, we say considering should be given to development of a post-release mediation and conflict skills training programme to assist ex-prisoners who have completed the programme in prisons to continue to develop their mediation and conflict training skills in the community. What I haven't put here, I'm going to say, is also with management here to the right, also the staff, but the prisoners themselves said since they've started doing the peer mediation in the prisons, the conflict violence has, I don't know if it's half or quartered, but significantly gone down with the men doing the work. Like the last 2 bits would be our thanks to Tanya Lawler in her work from carrying out the social consensus evaluation of this pilot programme. We have hard copies of the report available outside, but if anybody would like us to email copies, we would gladly do it. Secondarily, right at the end now, it's the research was aided and the course enhanced by the assistance and involvement of two travelling men, two travelling mediators are now. But at the time, we're in the process of completing the travelling mediation and conflict training accredited programme in Maynooth. And one of them that's going to be up now is Frank Cameron. Thanks very much.